Hey, everybody. Welcome back to LTL Podcast. It's Sunday night, July 30th, 2023, and this is episode 44 here on the podcast. I have an exciting announcement to make. I have actually posted over 500 videos on this podcast channel as of right now. And if you weren't here last night, with Tanya and I from Titanium Built YouTube channel, I actually hit 8,000 subscribers last night. And I'm actually at 8110. I think I'm at 8111 right now. So I want to welcome in everybody from the to the live show. We have a lot of new subscribers here in the last 2 days or so. So if this is the first time catching the live show, I want to welcome you in. We have a really great chat, very nice people in my chat. And I'm sure that some of the videos that I've done over the last couple of days may bring in some haters or whatever. But, feel free to chat. We'll figure out that as we get there. So don't mind my neck today. I was out hiking today and I get bit by some mosquitoes and I came home like, oh my God. Yeah. So I got bit pretty good today. Hiking, fun stuff. But I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody had a great weekend. We had an action-packed weekend of shows. If you haven't missed them, go back there and watch the replays. And if you're watching those replays, or if you're watching this replay and you're not watching it live right now, comment down below after this video posts and just say hashtag replay, because I like to know how many people are watching these on replay. What else? So I had an amazing show yesterday with Tanya from the Titanium Built channel. I had an awesome interview with former FBI agent and News Nation contributor Jennifer Coffindaffer the other day. That video is up tagged to my main page. So if you're new over here, you can go over there and check that out just right on my homepage, my main page, my homepage. But what happened? All right. So I want to talk about some short form content. I did a short form video today, as you guys are all here. The Pappa Rodger account went live on Facebook again yesterday. Well, actually late last night. It was very interesting how I found out. Tanya and I were actually backstage after our live, and we were just kind of chatting about everything. And usually at that point, when I'm doing that, I will check out my social media accounts and just kind of see what's going on. I'll pull up Twitter and see what goes on in my feed. Well, in mid-sentence, I pull up my Twitter feed and I say, oh my God. And this was from the Nerdy Addict. And I said, oh my God. And Tanya's like, are you all right? And I'm like, check this out. I'm like, Nerdy Addict is reporting that the Pappa Rodger Facebook account has been reactivated. And I was like, wow. So all the old posts, if you look here, started to appear again in the Idaho case discussion group. And I was like, wow, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. So I said, I'm going to look into this. I'm going to do a little bit of research. And, come to find out through my research, it's now gone. So it popped up for a little bit and then went silent again, which is really interesting. So, a couple things to this. And I dropped, like I said, I dropped a video today. Can speculate a little bit here, can maybe solidify something here. I'm just going to throw it out there for basic conversation in the chat. So, could be a couple things. Let's say that I definitely don't think it's Kohberger. I don't think he's activating accounts from prison. Now we know that he has a tablet, but he's not going to have access to Facebook and stuff like that. So let's just squash that, because if Pappa Rodger is Bryan Kohberger, which a lot of people think it was, and there's been some controversy about it, of course, He's definitely not reactivating an account. There's no way that you could do that. Or this just was a tremendous troll back in the day that maybe some of their speculation or their inquiries that they were saying just happened to be true, or I don't know. Maybe it was a law enforcement agent. Maybe it was Bryan Kohberger. Could it be a possibility that law enforcement activated that account, or Ann Taylor activated that account, or the state activated that account to look into maybe some private messages that were going on, or maybe some of the activity on that profile? Now, I know once this activated, it popped down. There was a lot of fake accounts that were popping up. I mean, the internet was going crazy, absolutely crazy. So what I want to do is, you all know what I like to do first is I like to go back. So we're going to go back and look at how this all started. And then I have I'll pull up some of the discussion groups that this was popping up in, and people will go on berserk, and we can read through some of the funny posts that were going on. I thought that would be great. And then what I have towards the end of this presentation is I have a video with a lawyer. Her name is Harvard Lawyer Lee. This actually popped up on my suggested videos homepage today, and she actually gives her analysis of the Bryan Kohberger alibi. And I know I've been talking about that a lot lately, and I want to play through that video with you all. I actually kind of thumbed through it a little bit today, but I actually want to watch it a little bit more in detail. So maybe we can have a little bit of a watch party at the end of the show. I just wanted to pull up this super chat here. Ali Reza is a very old friend of mine here on the platform. We used to do a lot of streams back in the day of watch content. You guys all know about that. I told you I used to do watches over here, but just sent out a super chat, and he always has these odd number super chats, which are great, and always makes me chuckle when I see them. But he said, "Hey B, just wanted to stop by and say hello. Hope to catch you proper later. Be well and have a great show." Ali, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate that. And I have to get over on JJ's show and hang out with you guys. If you're still watching, I want to dive, if we can, into this whole timepiece gentleman thing, because I am so fascinated by it, and I would love to hear all your perspectives on it. So if you guys are live when I end my show tonight, maybe I'll pop over there. I'll pop in the back room with you guys and talk. If not, we'll have to catch up at some point. But thank you so much for the super chat. I do appreciate it. And very good old friend, very kind man. And it's really good to see him pop in. I know this is not probably his forte, what I'm doing now, but that was really nice to support. So thank you, Ollie. Appreciate that. All right, so let's go into this article here. I wanted to pull this back up. This was from The Sun, and this was, I think, back in February 23rd, 2023. And this goes into a little bit of how this kind of Pappa Rodger thing. Oh, Ollie, wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's really, really nice of you. Wow, Ollie just gifted 20 memberships. So I have 20 new members here to the membership group. Wow, that's really kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's give out our new. Ollie, thank you. That was very kind of you. Thank you. Wow. Well, everybody, welcome to the membership group. And if you're interested in my members only content, you can go to the my homepage, my landing page, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll have all access to all my members only content. So that was very, very nice. That was a very nice gift. We have 20 new members. We have 20 new members for the next month. And if you want to continue that membership, you can just rejoin when you have, if you want to do that. So, and I do members only streams. My members know that. So yeah, that was huge. Thank you so much. That was very, very kind. Okay. So let's go back into some history, because I always love to go back and look at things and kind of explain it and go up to current day. You guys know I love to do that. So this article was back from February 23rd, 2023. And I'll read through this a little bit. So in plain sight, inside wild, Pappa Rodger's theory, as sleuths claim Idaho suspect Bryan Kohberger was posting about murders before the arrest. So internet sleuths have posted a wild theory that the Idaho murder suspect may have been posting about his alleged crimes online before his arrest. We'll get into the kind of heart of the article here. The 28-year-old PhD student was charged with the murders of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Now, in a unified, now an unverified theory has, as you guys will know, and I'm going to stop myself right here, I am dyslexic and I have a stutter. So you'll have to deal with me. Now, a unverified theory has spread that Kohberger may have been posting about the murders under a I am not going to get that word. So a pseudonym, I think that's what it is. However, there is no evidence confirmed by police to provide this. A Facebook user known as Pappa Rodger and a Reddit poster, Inside Looking, raised concerns when they started creating posts that seemed to have detailed knowledge of the case. Claims from the posters were also revealed to be true, leading to rumors that one or both of the accounts were used by the alleged killer. Pappa Rodger was part of the University of Idaho case discussion group on Facebook. However, the account was removed after posting some really creepy stuff, said the group administrator, Kristen Cameron. Pappa Rodger shared an eerie post on November 30th that read, "Of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent as a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. This evidence was released prior to the autopsies." And what I want to do is I'm going to engage you guys here, and I'm going to start a poll. Hang on. I should have done this first. Let's see. Bear with me 1 second. All right, who do you think? Now I'm saying the OG Pappa Rodger. So the poll's going to go up. Polling the jury, yes. So the OG, the first original count is what I'm talking about. So that is going to be posted up there. I spelt law enforcement wrong, but we know what I mean. Law enforcement. Law enforcement. You guys know what I mean. All right. At some point, Pappa Rodger got into an argument about the murders with other user who asked, "Why do you communicate like a serial killer?" Soon, Pappa Rodger was removed from the page, with Cameron explaining, "Pappa Rodger was never a mod or an admin in this group. He was on here and arguably insistently with people and said some really creepy stuff. We removed Pappa Rodger at 7:10 the evening before Bryan's arrest. He created a group page and had 6 people in it. No one has heard from Pappa Rodger since his arrest," she added. Another strange internet user was Inside Looking from Reddit, who posted on the Moscow Murders subreddit, which I think has been closed down since now. The user was able to correctly identify the importance of the white Hyundai Elantra near the crime scene and shoe prints that likely belonged to the suspect before the information was confirmed by authorities. Speculation: killer parked behind the house, approached property through the tree line, entered sliding glass door, left it open, Inside Looking posted. Committed murders and exited sliding door. One knife, according to the coroner statement. Time of the murder, approximately 3:20 a.m. to 3:40 a.m., according to a car fleeing the scene on camera at on Highway 8, approximately 3:45 a.m. Vehicle left skid marks upon exit. In response, another Reddit user posted, "Dude is solving his own crime. Psycho." Inside Looking's Reddit profile had a picture that initially showed a masked man dressed in black and holding a flashlight. However, Police haven't been able to connect the Pappa Rodger and Inside Looking accounts to Kohberger. So that's what we have. That's a little bit of the background here. And you guys always know I like to go back and look at history before we, move forward in presentations. Let me just do some housekeeping really quick here, and I'll get back with you all in a second. Hang on 2 seconds. So I wanted to let everybody know, I may cut down on streaming every night and focus on some short form content for a little while. Hey, Crimezilla, how are you? Welcome into the chat. So I may cut down on live streaming for a little while, maybe just a couple nights during the week. And then on my off nights, I'm going to start focusing, I believe, on some short form content. I did some short form content today, and literally my Pappa Rodger video blew up that I did this morning. I think right now it has, let me see. That video has, let's see. Oh, I just clicked on the wrong one. Yeah, that one has almost has over 8,000 views right now. 8,500. So, I think the streaming, I just think that long form content, I'm going to peel back on for a little while, maybe cut down to like 4 nights a week streaming. And then the other 3 nights, I'll probably concentrate on releasing some short form content. So haven't completely made up my mind on that yet, but I just wanted to let you all know. So, because I love live streaming. I have such a difficult time doing recorded videos. I'm horrible at it. It takes me so much to do. But anyway, let's look at some other accounts that were posting about the Bryan Kohberger, the Pappa Rodger video, that Pappa Rodger account that was popping up. So menace to sobriety. Pappa Rodger's account has been reactivated on Facebook, and his posts are showing up again. And here were some of the posts from 2022, as we see here in the University of Idaho murder case discussion group. Pappa Rodger on December 22nd, 2022, posted, day 39, the killer is not in the victim's immediate circle. Okay. That's kind of creepy and eerie now that we found out all that detail. And then on November 30th, 2022, which I believe was the last post that they allowed, of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent with a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. This evidence was released prior to autopsies. So really crazy stuff. Let me look at the poll. Let me check out the poll. So I asked the question, who do you think the OG Pappa Rodger is? I have 21% at law enforcement, 41% say Bryan Kohberger, and 38% say a troll. There's 80 votes right now. Okay, and then I checked in with Carrie Rawson because she's usually pretty good on this stuff right away. Carrie said, regarding Pappa Rodger, the original is back up as of 7/30/23, and then she put the account number there. If you click on that account number, that link is now dead. It doesn't work anymore. The hoax account that came shortly after Pappa Rodger was booted, and then gives the account number there. So, I think the account was reactivated, and whatever that purpose was, and here's the account. If you go to that link now, it's dead. It's a dead link. You can't get in there. You can't look. Yeah. So then of course, this started to blow up, you know, all of the chats. Let's see. Cindy has a question. She says, does BK have a tablet in prison and could access again? So he does have it. I'm sure he has a tablet, probably has access to jail orientated email. So he can probably communicate with his attorney and his family. I don't think that he's going to have any other access besides that. As far as having any internet access to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of that stuff, that is a definitely negative. Yes, definitely something is up. I think, just in my opinion, that it possibly could be law enforcement, maybe the defense or state reactivating that account to look in there to maybe to look at some messages. You know, maybe there's some messages that they wanted to go through or look at activity on that account. Or this could come down to, oh boy, I don't know. I feel strong about that. It could be law enforcement, you know, in the very beginning of all this to try to fish someone out. Or was it Kohberger? You know, but it would just be almost impossible now. It eliminates Kohberger. It definitely eliminates Kohberger because he doesn't have access to reactivate that account. So it definitely it's going to eliminate him. So yeah, to look up those digital forensics. Absolutely. It's extremely strange, Donna. It's very strange. So let's look at some of the Facebook groups because they were fun and they were wild to look at. And it just opened a lot of thought-provoking discussions. So this was from the Idaho Murders Facebook group. And let me enlarge this a little bit so we can all see. Let's see if you guys... All right, so this was a troll account. This one says, I can't access my other account. Why y'all making a big deal about me? We'll scroll down here and get into some of the conversations. Let's see. Yeah, I'll submit it again since admin banned comment and then deleted my post. Pappa Rodger is actually D. I have received a friend request from Pappa Rodger. This was just great. Is it possible Bryan was framed, saving his alibi until the trial? The jail kept him safe. No. Let's see. Look who reactivated their account. Excuse me. Pappa Rodger shows the account. And here it goes again from the troll account. Will the trial begin in October of this year, or will there be delays? Thoughts? Personally, I'll answer that. I think that we're not going to see this trial until probably 2025 or 2026, the way that it's going right now. I don't think that it's going to happen in October. Maybe late 2024, but I think it's going to be more like 2025. So, let me see. I don't think so. I'm just answering a question. I don't think so. Let me take a look. Sorry, I'm super uncoordinated today. You know, this is unlike me. Let me see. You know, I'm more prepared than this. I'm well more prepared than this. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties right now. Sorry, dead air is not always good. I am just checking something really quick. I'm just checking something really quick. No, it is not. No, it is not. Sorry, I had to answer a question. Okay, so let's see. So obviously, y'all Pappa Rodger in the group on YouTube right now. Interesting. Not sure what to think. So this was back in May. But anyway, we got the gist of that. What I also want to do is pull up some other. So this is from the University of Idaho murders case discussion, and it was about an hour ago. Let's see. Let me go back up here. So this one says, my second excellent theory about Pappa Rodger, since law enforcement already knows it was Bryan gave Ann Taylor his login information so she could read his private messages. She logged in, got what she needed, and bounced. Not likely. I think I'm going to go as Pappa Rodger for Halloween and see if anyone in the group approaches me. The paparazzi situation yesterday made me realize how many of you don't know how to use Facebook. Pappa Rodger dropped in for the weekend and then he's gone. Again, we need another congressional hearing. That's a great little meme that someone put together. That's pretty hilarious. But I'll tell you, it was the chats were spun up. This is 2 hours ago. If you aren't interested in paparazzi, keep scrolling. It's easy. I screenshotted some of the comments I found interesting, and I actually did a video today. I put together all of the old posts. I posted that this afternoon. So if you want to go back and look at all the OG posts, you can. It's on my page. Add a little music to it for some, just to have some fun, I guess. Let's see. Did you think? Let's see if there's any. All right, is the real Pappa Rodger account down again? I only see one fake account now. So everybody, I mean, in case you missed it, my earlier post, I repeat, here's an idea. Let's all ignore Pappa Rodger. P.S. We know he or she's gone, but they might be lurking in another profile. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That's the Wizard of Oz post. Let's see. What is your favorite podcast covering this case? I know what it is. It's the LTL podcast. Not bragging or anything, but Pappa Rodger did accept my friend request. I have asked where she's been. No response. Anyway, what questions would you like me to ask her besides who actually is? This is hilarious. I'm away from one weekend and Pappa Rodger came back. Was he in the group specifically? Sorry, friends, just trying to catch up. Let's see. Ann Taylor files a motion to dismiss, and then the very next day, Pappa Rodger account was reactivated. Is law enforcement starting to search for another suspect all over again with this reactivation? No. Y'all want to be talking about Pappa Rodger and stuff, and I'm over here like, man, I'm hungry. Just looking at your names, and I can catch up. I mean, I have music, lasagna, portobello mushrooms. What else we got? I'm hangry. Hey, I thought it would be good different posts other than Pappa Rodger. Here's an idea. Let's all ignore Pappa Rodger and see what happens. Who's here? Oh. Uh-oh. Who's entered the chat? The suspects are still out there, sent from my iPad. Oh man, it just gets crazy. Will the real Pappa Rodger please stand up? All right, let's see if we can. All right, I believe it's time around the Pappa Rodger account was being deleted and just not deactivated. Was reading through them and I noticed one of them by the comments were disappearing. First comments to disappear on each post were Pappa Rodger. After Pappa Rodger, then everyone else's comments vanished. This is happening each post one at a time. For the last time, Pappa Rodger is Papa John's little brother. He's never good enough to get into pizza biz, though. Hashtag facts. Hey, does anyone know if Pappa Rodger's account is still active? So Stacy says, I've been thinking about this whole Pappa Rodger person. I had a bit of an insomnia last night, so I went to the Idaho Department of Corrections to see if inmates have internet access. I found this. would be considered impersonating. I was talking to my husband, telling him the story of Pappa Rodger and all the speculation, how it most likely is not him, but must be someone close to the case. He asked me the most used words over law enforcement radios. Rodger. Oh, boy. All right, so this one says, as we speak, all the comments on Pappa Rodger's posts are being deleted. Someone's doing their housekeeping, was finishing up SS and noticed on some post only Pappa Rodger has been deleted. Other comments were still there. Went back and checked, and after the first deleting extraction Pappa Rodger comments, it appears, then deleted everyone else's comments. Let me see this. So Lisa says, hey, Bryan, how you doing? If it was BK, then it would be crazy for him to try to access something from a jailhouse tablet. Hey, where's Detective John been? I have no idea where Detective John is. Last I heard, I think he's in Virginia somewhere. So Pappa Rodger in the chat room says, LE took the lead of conscience instead of following the path of least resistance. The suspects are further than reached now, sent from my iPad. I think it could, Doodlebug says, I think it could be BK's sister. And then Brooks says, I don't think he gets internet access. I don't think he does either. But we don't know. He's in the chat. You could ask him. Has the Pappa Rodger profile been deactivated yet? I can't pull it up now. Someone's having fun messing with us. Pappa has left the building again. Please note before reading, pure speculation. I read somewhere on Reddit that Pappa Rodger was created by one of the admin members of this group who has now left or been removed, and the profile was created just for notoriety for this page. Again, just what I read and sharing because of all the Pappa Rodger talk. All right, let's see. What's your opinion about Pappa Rodger? Never thought Pappa Rodger was BK. I used to think Pappa Rodger was BK. I still think Pappa Rodger is BK. Unsure who, don't care. All right, let's see. My main takeaway from the whole Pappa Rodger drama is not to believe any TV show or anything ever. It's funny to me. I thought there was a pretty good probability it was him, but Dateline or whoever made me think so because that said that the law enforcement now believes it's BK posting. They probably interviewed Jennifer Coffindaffer, and she said it might be technically, she said law enforcement at one time. They can then say law enforcement believes BK is posting as Pappa Rodger. Yeah, the pinnacle of credibility. I read it somewhere on Reddit. Yeah, exactly. I love that, Terry. That's great. So LJD3 says, I miss Detective John's take on things. His perspective is rational. I like that. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to say this. I think that, and I have to stand by this right now. I'm not going to talk bad about DJ at all, but I do think that he has, some things to work out. Obviously with T-Rev, he had, came on my show. I asked him really not to talk about any of that, kind of went on with it. And I unfortunately had to drop him from the stream because that's not what I want to do here on LTL podcast. I hope that someday that DJ and T-Rev can work things out. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I don't know truly what went on behind the scenes with all that. That's really all I want to talk about it. But until that situation can calm down, we'll move forward from there. So that's really what I have to say about it. I know that, he's been talking about starting his own channel. So maybe his channel will pop up and he'll get going on that. But I need to do right now what's best for LTL podcast. And this is the best thing for me. I'll continue to move forward. Guests will come and go, and they may come back. They may come back. But right now, My concentration is doing the best thing possible for LTL podcast, moving this channel forward, getting it out in the algorithm, serving the viewers, serving the subscribers, serving the members, and putting on the best possible show every night that I get to do this for all of you. So that's kind of my statement on that. So, okay. We've had a little bit of fun with the Pappa Rodger stuff. What I want to do now is transition back to the Bryan Kohberger Alibi. And I've been talking a lot about that lately. And Laura and I have Laura on my brain because I haven't talked to her in a while. But Laura, if you're watching, I hope you're doing well. We'd love to have you back on the panel sometime. But Tanya and I last night had some lives. We went over on her channel early and then came over on mine, and we talked about the Alibi. And I saw this video come up in my algorithm, and I wanted to play this this evening. And it's from a channel called Harvard Lawyer Lee. I don't know if you've ever seen this channel, but she has quite a few subscribers, over 100,000. And I hope she doesn't mind that I play this. We would love to just to learn a little bit more and just get a different lawyer's perspective, because we always hear Peter Tragos, we always hear Emily D. Baker, but I would love to hear her take on this. I did thumb through a little bit of it earlier, but I didn't get to complete the whole video. So this is going to really be my first time watching through this. So we'll watch back, we'll sit back, we'll watch, get a little bit of education from a different lawyer's perspective on this, and hear what Harvard Lawyer Lee has to say about the Alibi react.
So that's pretty good. We'll go back and talk about what happened with Bryan Kohberger. We start in May 22nd. He was arraigned. And at that point, the prosecution said the very next day, they asked for notice of alibi.
Real quick, I have 300 people watching right now. I only have 83 likes. It's literally free, and it takes like a nanosecond to smash that like button. Let's try to get this out over 100 likes right now, because this will push the stream out into the algorithm, and we're able to bring in new viewers. So if you could just take 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds, if you haven't done it already, smash that like button, leave your DNA on it, and we'll keep pushing forward here. I really would appreciate it.
They wanted to know, what's your alibi? We're going to talk about what that means, why you have to do that legally. I'll give you a real basic explanation of it so you'll clearly be able to understand. And then we're going to talk about what that alibi actually was. And given what he says, whether that's going to hurt him. So on immediately, the defense asked for an extension. And the defense said, look, okay, May 23rd, we would have had 10 days. The judge gave them all the way through July 24th. So gave them 2 entire months instead of 10 days to give their alibi and to present what Bryan Kohberger wanted to say was his reason that he couldn't have done it because he was somewhere else. So on July 24th, that he then had to give that final alibi and state what it was. So let's start with what exactly an alibi means under Idaho law, and not legal advice. I'm just going through what the statutes.
Yeah, I love live streaming, but I'm going to definitely concentrate on some short form content for a little while too. We got a new subscriber. Regina's in here, says she just subscribed and stomped that like button. Thanks for leaving that DNA on that like button. Thank you so much.
Says 19-519. And we'll read it and then just talk about it. It won't be hard, trust me. At any time after arraignment before a magistrate, upon a complaint and upon written demand of the prosecuting attorney, the defendant shall serve within 10 days or at such different time as the court may direct. And that's what the court did here. The court said, I'm going to give you extra time since you think that's too fast. I'm giving you through July 24th is what they ultimately got. Upon the prosecuting attorney, a written notice of his intention to offer a defense of alibi. So all that says is, if the prosecution asks for it, the defense has to give the alibi within 10 days. That's all that says. Such notice by the defendant shall state, and this is important, the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense, and the names and addresses of the witnesses upon whom he intends to rely to establish such alibi. So what the statute is saying is that the alibi has to be specific. It has to name where you were and who was with you. Not just say, oh, I wasn't there. That's not what an alibi is. An alibi isn't just I wasn't there. An alibi is I couldn't possibly have knocked over the gas station at the corner of 5th and 10th Street. I was all the way across town at a prayer meeting, and with 50 other people, all of who can attest that I was right there with them. That's what an alibi is. You were somewhere else with somebody else, something along those lines. So the statute says you have to do this, and within 10 days after receipt of the defendant's notice of alibi, but in no event less than 10 days before trial, unless the court otherwise directs, that's just extra language, the prosecuting attorney shall serve upon the defendant or his attorney a written notice stating the names and addresses of the witnesses upon whom the prosecution intends to rely to establish the defendant's presence. So all that's saying, boiled down, take away the legal language, all it's saying is the defendant has to be specific, and then the prosecutor has to give it right back and say, okay, I think I'm going to be able to disprove your alibi by using the following witnesses. And here are their names, and here's where they live. I'm going to be able to disprove it by proving you are here. And that sort of information has to be exchanged. And the statute's pretty specific. It has to be exchanged promptly. Can't be over time. And so the state, in fact, did ask for that alibi. Let me head over to that document and I can show you real quickly. So the state just said in one of its documents on the 23rd of May, the state hereby demands of the defendant notice of defense of alibi pursuant to Idaho Code and Idaho criminal rule, and gives the numbers of those. So that was something that the prosecution immediately, rather promptly asked for. Let me get back to my screen so I can continue talking to you. So the alibi is supposed to be something that proves Bryan Kohberger wasn't actually present at the scene, couldn't have been, because he was somewhere else. He was somewhere else and therefore could not have murdered the 4 college students. So I'll back up just a minute. If you don't know, Bryan Kohberger is charged with murdering 4 college students, stabbing them to death in the middle of the night, some of them as they slept, all of them as they were in bed or going to bed and minding their own business. And those 4 college students were killed. Bryan Kohberger has been charged with those murders, the murders of the Idaho 4. So let's talk about why the prosecutor would want the alibi for the defendant. And there are a couple of really important reasons. Probably the most important is, I want you to picture this. I want you to picture you get all the way to trial and 45 people have been called as jurors and 12 jurors were picked after a big long discussion. The attorneys are there. The judge is there. Everybody has sat through the prosecution's entire case and wasted all of that time, or spent all of that time. And suddenly the defense gets up and says, okay, now that it's my turn, I just wanted you to know I was with 5 of my friends at a restaurant that's 20 miles away. And at the time the murder was committed, I wasn't even there. And I've got proof. For example, my friends posted on social media, and here I am eating at the restaurant with them. And there's a time on that they posted it. And, here's my restaurant receipt that shows I was there and even has the timestamp on it. And here's some video from the restaurant camera that shows that I was sitting here with my friends. So what a waste of time that would be for everybody, right? That's why the law says, let's go. If you've got an alibi, let's go ahead and provide it, because the prosecution doesn't want to spend its time prosecuting you if you've got something that protects you, something that says you weren't even there. If you aren't the guy, we don't want you in court because it wastes everybody's time. A second reason that a prosecutor might want that is that the prosecutor gets a chance to prepare. And so the prosecutor now knows, okay, this is where they're headed. How can I plug that hole in my case? How can I still prove that, in this case, Bryan Kohberger really was at the scene of the murders? Because now I know what it is he's going to claim. Now, speaking of meeting up, like at restaurants, we meet here on the channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. or tonight, 7:10 p.m. But if you would subscribe, join us. We have a great time in the chat. We would love to have you join us, and hit the like button if you would for the video. It'll help it get out to more people. So let's take a look now at Bryan Kohberger's alibi. And I am really curious to read your response in the chat. So let's go ahead and head on over. Here it is, Bryan Kohberger's alibi.
You're opening that
I'm
up.
going to read everything but the first sentence because this is how short it is. Okay, that's the alibi. Charged with 4 murders, and this is the alibi. Mr. Kohberger notes that Idaho, the first sentence just says, here it is, I'm responding to your request for alibi. Mr. Kohberger notes that Idaho Code 19.5.19.4 preserves his constitutional right to silence. Oh, I'm not showing it to you. My bad. Okay. His constitutional right to silence as well as to testify on his own behalf. Mr. Kohberger stands firm on his constitutional.
I want to welcome Francis to the chat. He has some great insight about my thumbnail. So he said, take the picture of yourself that you use for your thumbnails. It has to go. Every time I see it, it cringes. Fake, posed, pensive. My wife saw it on the screen and said, who is that dork? Well, you know what, Francis? Welcome to the chat. And thank you so much for your comment. But you know what? The best thing about it is that you've clicked and you've been watching my video. So it's gaining watch time. I appreciate your click and view. And if you don't want to watch anymore, you can just turn it off. You don't have to pay attention to my channel. But thanks for being here this evening. I love people like you when you come into the chat because it's just so positive here what you're talking about. So thank you.
Constitutional right as well as the statutory recognition
Thanks for
of that right.
View.
Noteworthy is that an alibi indicates a line of proof by which the defendant attempts to show that he could not have committed the crime of which he is accused because he was elsewhere at the time. And they cite from Amjur Proof of Facts. That's just the legal treatise that is used.
I don't usually address stuff like that, but you know, the funny thing about it is this, is that people like this are very jealous because they don't have the ability or capability to perform or put things together. And they have to come in and try to crush it down. It doesn't. It actually makes me laugh and actually makes me work harder. That's the funny thing about it. So these are people that have nothing better to do than to come in. It's fine. It's fine. It just makes us work harder as creators because we're the ones that are excelling on the platform. We're the ones that are getting more reach. You know, I love it. I love when these people come in and they click and view my videos because it just helps push this out into the algorithm further. So chat on, say on all you want, dude. I hope you subscribe to my channel too. That's really cool. And feel free to chat, bro.
By lawyers to prove different points. A defendant's denial of the charges against him does not constitute an alibi, but as soon as he offers evidence that he was at some place other than where the crime of which he is charged was committed, he is raising the alibi defense.
So, hey, it's a click and view. It's a positive thing. He's still hanging out in the chat.
I have the right not to testify. And I also have, and he also has the right to testify. He's saying I have the right to do either one. And I'm not going to disclose right this minute which I'm going to do. I'm preserving my constitutional right to not speak, but also my constitutional right to speak if I decide to do that. So
Lakota,
I'm keeping that right, he says. And then they just define alibi. It just means I wasn't there where the crime took place. I was somewhere else and I can prove it. That's all it's talking about. And as soon as he offers evidence that he was somewhere else, that's where it's the alibi. So here we go. This is it. It's 5 lines. Here it is, the alibi. And anyway, we'll read it. Mr. Kohberger's defense team.
I really like this girl. She's great. Well, lady. I really like her. She's really good. She's funny.
Continues investigating and preparing his case. That doesn't even count really as alibi. That just means we're still working. Evidence corroborating Mr. Kohberger being at a location other than the King Road address will be disclosed. Now, did that say was disclosed? Did it give a place? Did it give a person? It did not. No witnesses, no place. It just says in the future, evidence corroborating that he was not there where the murders were committed will be disclosed in the future, pursuant to discovery and evidentiary rules as well as statutory requirements. So in other words, we're going to do what we have to do, but we're not doing it now. We'll do it later.
Francis
is anticipated this evidence may be offered by way of cross-examination of witnesses produced by the state, as well as calling expert witnesses.
Come on, Pee-wee.
And what does that mean? So what they're saying is,
shh, I'm listening to reason.
the way we may get into alibi and saying we weren't there is by
cross-examining where are you hosing them down?
The witnesses you, the state, put on the witness stand. We'll ask them questions and try to prove that either they're lying or that there's something wrong with their testimony. Whoa. That's what we're going to do. We also, they're saying, might call expert witnesses who could say that there was something wrong with what the state's claim was. But now let's go back. You see that evidence corroborating will be disclosed, and we may cross-examine your witnesses, and we may call expert witnesses. Of course, he has the absolute right to cross-examine any witness put on the stand by the state. He has the right to call expert witnesses.
Hey,
so
Laura,
none of that is, let's go back.
Well.
Let's flip back over to the statute. And what did it say he had to do? He had to state the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense. Is there anything in there about that? No. There's nothing in there about the specific place or places at which he was present and that were not the place where the murders were committed, and names and addresses of the witnesses upon whom he intends to rely. And there's nothing in there about the witnesses other than he says the people you put up state, I might cross-examine them and I may bring experts. So there's nothing that really, truly, in my opinion, meets what this statute requires. The statute says you need to be, quote, specific. You need to be specific about the place. You need to be specific about the names and addresses of the witnesses. And none of that happened. So what does that mean? What's the result? If that happens and you haven't really offered anything, what can the court do about it? What can the prosecution do about it? Well, here's the answer to that. In paragraph 4, upon the failure of, and by the way, in paragraph 3, it does say if you learn of some extra witnesses that you didn't know about in advance and it's before trial or even during trial, then here's what you're going to do. You're going to notify the other party or his attorney of the fact that there's this other witness. So it provides for the idea that other witnesses may pop up and may turn out to be important somewhere along the way, and you didn't know about them at the time. But let's look specifically at that paragraph 4. Upon the failure of either party to comply with the requirements of this section.
I get bit by mosquitoes.
One example of that might be if you named no specific place and no specific.
In the woods today, hiking, getting fresh air, and I got bit big time. Look at
witness. The court may exclude the testimony of any undisclosed witness offered by such party as to the defendant's absence from or presence at the scene of the alleged offense.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you $2.
In other words, what the court
just recognize that. I'll stop it. Pause it here for a second. Mary Baker's $1.99 super chat says, "Thanks for all you do, Brian. Love this channel." Well, we love you being here. We love you being here. Let's see real quick. Dr. Bob said, "Brian, they should have seen you with that big beard." Yeah, the long beard. Thought about growing it back, but it's just too much work. It's just easier right now to do it like this. So, all right, let's keep playing through here.
I know I'm going to get yelled at. The court can say your witness can't testify because you didn't comply with the statute. I'm not going to let your witness testify. And this section, but note this last sentence, this section shall not limit the right of the defendant to testify in his own behalf. That was what that sentence was about in there, where it talked about Bryan Kohberger was standing on his right to testify or to not testify, either one that he wanted to do. And this is saying he can he can go ahead and testify. He can say absolutely nothing about his alibi in advance, but that's not going to limit his ability to testify. We're not ever going to rule that the defendant can or can't testify based on the failure to comply with this rule. That's what the statute seems to be saying to me.
No, thank
And
you.
it does say for good cause shown, the court could grant an exception. The court can say, well, okay, this one time it does seem to me a little bit different. So what it sounds to me like is there's not really an alibi. That's what.
Alien, you can go. You don't have to be subscribed to my channel. This is how I do my shows. I recognize the chat completely through all of my streams. This has been a well-noted thing that I do. I cannot just sit here and play a video because I will get a copyright strike. I have to talk during the video. If you don't like it, then you can unsubscribe. I don't know what to tell you. I've ran my streams like this all the time. This is how I do my streams. I make noise, I talk, I have fun and interaction with the chat. I cannot just sit here for 30 minutes and look into a camera. I have to interact with the audience. It's just how I do my streams. I am sorry. That does not line up with what you want to do. I'll drop the link in the chat and you can watch this video later at your own. I don't know what to tell you. This is how I do my streams. I've done them like this since day one. I constantly interact with the chat. So if this is not a live stream that you're going to enjoy, then I would just say don't subscribe. I mean, I don't want to chase people out of here, but this is how I do my streams. But I'm not going to sit here and see you chatting like, shut up, don't talk, da-da-da. I interact with my audience through my live shows all the time. Everybody knows that here. This is what we do. We're a very interactive crowd here. So we don't just turn a video on and sit here. So I don't know what to do. They're just angry. They're just angry, Regina.
What it sounds like to me. Sure,
for getting kicked off here, we have to talk. I mean, Tanya does it too during her streams. You have to pause and talk the video. You have to do it.
Read that as they're going to do something in the future, but he was supposed to do it now. If he had an alibi, if he had a specific place he could name, if he had witnesses who could corroborate that he was somewhere else, this was the time to bring that up. This was the time to name those people, and that didn't happen. There was nothing specific in what he said. So does that mean that's it? It's all over for Kohberger?
I mean, have you ever watched T-Rev? T-Rev talks through his entire stream. That's how his chat loves him. That's why his chat loves him. It's his entire stream he talks through. He talks through videos. He takes calls. It's very interactive. If you want something that is just going to be a dead, dying stream, then LTL podcast is not going to be for you. I'm sorry. We talk here. We're loud. I'm a Bostonian. I'm proud of my roots being here in Massachusetts. We're conversationalists. We like to talk to people. We're like New Yorkers. We're loud. We're boisterous. That's how we do it here. That's LTL podcast. I don't know what to tell you. I can't just sit here and not interact with my fans, my chat, my subscribers. It's just, it's how we do it. Regina has given me a $19.99 super chat. She said, just found your channel. Regina, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate it. All right, let's keep playing through here.
He gets convicted, death penalty. It all goes wrong for Kohberger from here. No, it doesn't mean he automatically loses. And you probably are saying along with me exactly why, which is there is the presumption of innocence, and the burden is on the state to prove that he did it, not on him to prove that he has an alibi. So he doesn't have to have an alibi, just as the state doesn't have to have a motive. There are things that don't have to be proven, and an alibi is one of them. It could be he says I was at home asleep, and that could be a perfectly fine alibi, but there'd be nobody to corroborate it. And let's take a look at and let me say one more thing before I finish that point. I do believe, given the public nature of this case, if he had a true alibi, if he had proof that he was at a restaurant or somewhere else or in a store, anywhere, somewhere else other than here, he would have produced it. I think he would have produced it right now.
I am 100% agree with that. 1,000 trillion do agree with that. Because if you are sitting in jail, locked up, facing a death penalty, if you lose a case, why are you not providing an alibi? Why are you not providing some kind of evidence, just like this lawyer was talking about earlier? Here's my receipts. This is where I was. I was with this specific people. Look, I have photos of the place we were in together, dinner, whatever. And this is where I challenge you that all think that, where is this alibi? Where's the alibi? Laura says, comparing yourself to New York could get your Boston status revoked. No. Well, bring it on, Laura. Bring it on. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm Red Sox. I'm Bruins. I'm Celtics all the way. All the way. Patriots all the way. So,
because in the court of public opinion, this was the moment in time to do it. And as that time passes, it becomes less and less possible
that's right,
for people
Mimi,
to believe that he had an alibi. So this was the moment. So what is all of the alibi issue going to be? I think his hinting about what he's going to do, and I think is going to all relate to the cell phone evidence. And I want to go back to what that cell phone evidence was. And I think that's where the dispute is going to be, because the state is going to say, we believe you were at the scene because of this cell phone evidence. And Bryan Kohberger is going to say, my alibi is you don't have proof that I was at the scene, including through your own cell phone evidence. I think that's going to be the argument he's going to make. So let's add this back to the stream, and let me head over to the statement of Brett Payne that was made early.
I'm gonna recognize this really quick. Ray says, do you, man, bigger audiences always have ones to control your actions. Keep pushing. No one will ever control LTL podcast. I am the creator of this platform. The only people that will control this is me, my subscribers, and my members. Other than that, the haters will never control LTL podcast. I will always do what is the best thing in the interest of this channel and my audience. 1000%. If I see my audience in here tell me that there's something that I don't like, and I know the names, believe me, my channel members, all the regulars that come in, if there's something in here that they don't like, then we will move on. But other than that, like, I get it. The channel's going to grow. There's going to be new people that come in. There's going to be new people that come in that don't share the same views of this channel, that don't share the same views of this chat. And it's okay. We can talk about those things. But if someone's going to come in and they're going to be rude and disruptive and be nasty, then we don't need those type of people here. They can move on. I don't force you to hit the subscribe button. I don't force you to come to the live streams. I don't do that. That is on your own free will. We want you all here, and we want to be productive, and we want to be a nice community, of course. But if you're going to be rude, nasty, and mean, my chat's not going to take it. They're going to take you and boot you right out of here. They're going to boot you right out of here. So I understand this is part of the game with live streaming. People will come in, people will come out, people will agree, people won't agree. So it's all good. It's all good. But I just need to explain that stuff.
On in the case, in fact, in the initial stages of the case, and it sort of explained what it was that the state felt like its evidence was against Bryan Kohberger as of that point. We know they've done a lot of work since then. We don't really have a roadmap on what else they found. But let's go back. So on November 13th, 2022, at approximately 2:42 a.m., the 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to Kohberger residents. So throughout, one of the defense arguments is going to be, you don't ever state, pinpoint my phone. You just say I was in this area. And it's basically take a cell tower and draw a circle around it. You were in here, or you were in this next cell phone area, or a cell phone over by Moscow, Idaho. You were somewhere in that area, but there's not specifics. And that's one of the arguments I'm sure that the defense is going to make. So 242, in other words, he's at Kohberger's residence. He's at his own house. And then at 247, then he leaves the Kohberger residence, travels south, and by 247, it stops reporting to the network. What the prosecution is going to say is we can watch this phone follow along with the Hyundai Elantra and the car that he owned, and we can see the Hyundai Elantra at various spots, and we saw that the phone was with the Hyundai Elantra. So unless he threw it out the window, then that phone is still with him. And so they say that the phone stops reporting to the network, and that's consistent with either the phone being in an area without cellular coverage, or the connection to the network is disabled, such as putting it in airplane mode, or the phone is turned off. So the state is saying, we see him leave his residence in the middle of the night at 2:42 a.m. and we see the phone getting what we believe is cut off, because otherwise it would still be reporting. That's the state's argument. And then at 4:48 a.m., it utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Idaho State Highway 95 south of Moscow, Idaho. That is after the murders have been committed. And the state is going to say the fact that there is this gap, that there's...
I am definitely not a silent YouTuber. I am definitely not a silent YouTuber.
This period of time when your cell phone is out and about, you are running around Idaho, but at the same time, your cell phone isn't reporting. That's proof that you turned it off to get away with something. That's essentially what the state is probably going to argue. So they said then it traveled west toward Uniontown, north back into Pullman, Washington at 5:30 a.m. It's using the area around Pullman, and then they can track that white Elantra again. They observe it traveling north on Stadium Drive at 5:27 a.m. They look at where the locations and travel are, and it's consistent with that white Elantra. So it looks like the phone was off, and now here it is with the white Hyundai Elantra again. And then they say it goes back to cellular resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residents the next day. And we'll get into that another time. We haven't even done our timeline on this case, so we will definitely get into all of that at a future point. So the state is going to say, look, you were out riding around in the middle of the night. You got your phone, headed out. All of a sudden, your phone stops reporting, but your car is still there because we see it, we can track it, and then the phone turns on later. Who goes out in the middle of the night and turns off their phone for 2 hours except someone who's up to no good? That's what the state...
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask anybody a question in here. Everybody a question in here. When have you ever, let's put a timeline on it. Let's say in the last week, have you turned your phone off for any length of period of time? So if you have, drop a 1 in the chat. If you haven't, drop a 2 in the chat. So in the last week, have you turned your phone, not dying, not letting the battery dying, I'm saying physically turning off your phone for any period of time? So drop a 1 in the chat if you have, a 2 in the chat if you haven't. I want to see this.
I'm just going to say, and they're going to say, and besides, you've been over there in this area before, you went over there again the next morning. So we believe that you were turning off your cell phone in order to get away with murdering these 4 college students. And that's the argument that that the state is going to make. Now, the defense... I
think my chat is stuck. They're all going to zoom through.
Defense, I think, is going to say you have no proof that he was near the house because the cell phone wasn't reporting. So what you can't prove he was right there at the house. You can't prove he was in that area right outside the house. So, but is that a strong alibi? Not really. That's not even technically an alibi exactly. It just means you can't prove I was there, not that it's an alibi. So that's probably, though, what I think the defense is going to aim for, is trying to get the jury to say the state hasn't proven its case. Not so much probably an alibi in the classic sense, like I was here doing this at the time you say I was committing these murders. It's not, it doesn't sound like going to be that kind of an alibi. So his goal, I think, will be to poke some holes in the state's evidence. But so far, there's not an alibi that meets, in my opinion, that statute. The statute says he needed to be specific about where he was and who the witnesses he will bring to prove he was there are. And we got nothing in the way of a specific place where he was and no name of a witness other than the people you bring, state. I'm going to cross-examine them, of course, and I'm going to bring expert witnesses. Other than that, we haven't gotten anything specific about what it is.
I just asked the same question. Poll at the top.
I mean, sorry, what it is that's going to be Bryan Kohberger's alibi.
It's easier that way.
The court could,
Yeah, right.
under that statute that I showed you, one of the things the court could do is decide to exclude witnesses. Is the court going to do that? Well, first of all, we don't even know yet that Bryan Kohberger wants to offer anybody. He didn't name anybody that he wanted to offer. If he came up with somebody who offered an alibi, then that would be an issue for the court. Right now, it's not even an issue. We do know that the statute is pretty clear that it can't mean that Bryan Kohberger is prevented from testifying. If he wants to get on the stand and talk about an alibi, then he's entitled to do that. And the statute is not going to stand in his way on that. It's just not going to give him any, it gives the court the power to exclude other witnesses if he suddenly were to name them. Thus far, it's not looking like a lot of alibi in any classic sense of that word. So be sure. So we'll be covering this case. We're covering the Corey Richards case. We are definitely covering the Long Island serial killer case. And you don't want to miss any of this. These are all the cases that everybody's talking about, made understandable so we can all talk about them together. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the like button, and I will see you on Friday at 7.
All right. I dropped the link to that video if anybody wants to go in there and watch that. Let's pull this up from today. This was a couple of days ago. Let's hear their perspective on the alibi.
In a last-minute move to present an alibi, attorneys for Bryan Kohberger are now suggesting the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students in November may not have been at the crime scene when the killings took place. In court documents filed Tuesday, the defense writes, evidence corroborating Mr. Kohberger being at a location other than the King Road address will be disclosed. And while the defense did not provide further detail about where Kohberger may have been, they say his whereabouts may come to light at a trial through cross-examination and expert witness testimony. Part of the investigation, the discovery of a white Hyundai Elantra that was seen at the crime scene the morning of the murders.
How y'all doing today?
It's the same make and model Kohberger owns, and police stopped him in weeks before his arrest.
Do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay?
This is just the latest attempt to cast doubts on the state's case in the investigation after prosecutors said Kohberger's DNA was a statistical match to DNA found on a knife sheath at the crime scene. Last month, the defense suggested that evidence may have been planted, writing, the state's argument assumes the DNA on the sheath was placed there by Mr. Kohberger and not someone else during an investigation that spans hundreds of members of law enforcement and apparently at least one lab that the state refuses to name.
Not guilty of the crime of murder.
Ah, man, I tell you, you know, these shows crack me up because, and my chat knows this, I have been saying the O.J. Simpson defense for months in here, like 5 months, 6 months, easily in these chats. And I find it extremely funny that all these mainstream media shows now have been talking about this O.J. Simpson defense. I've been saying that forever, and I find it hilarious that now all these new videos that pop up from these mainstream media shows say the O.J. Simpson defense. I literally can go back to streams months ago when I was talking about this. It's hilarious. I'm sure they're gonna go, it's the O.J. Simpson defense, because what did they do? They got witnesses on the stand. They attacked the DNA. They attacked law enforcement. They attacked the process that evidence was collected. They attacked Mark Furman, who was the lead investigator on the chat in the case. They attacked all the witnesses, Cato Kalin. So what happens when you do all that and you present that in front of the jury, and there's not just 5 things, but there's multiple things in that case. When you present all that in front, what happens? It makes the crime go away. And it was a brilliant defense. It made the crime go secondary, and it turned all of that against law enforcement. That it was brilliant. It's a brilliant case to study for defense. And I'm telling you right now, I almost guarantee you that Ann Taylor and her team have reviewed this case, have reviewed the way that the defense handled this case.
Innocent of another high-profile trial in 1995 when O.J. Simpson's defense claimed a blood-stained glove was planted at their client's home. The jury in that case famously acquitted Simpson. In May, a not guilty plea was entered by the judge on Kohberger's behalf. He faces
Cindy, thank you so much for your $4.99
for the deaths of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin.
Thank you.
With this trial set to start in October, the University of Idaho
And he's
now
a
says
huge
it will
supporter
wait
of the
until
channel.
then to demolish the house where the quadruple killings occurred. The decision comes after the
That's
victims'
right.
families
They did.
asked for the house to be preserved.
I don't want somebody in the court case say, well, I really wish we could be in the house right now.
Yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't have the racial aspect, but what was presented to the jury before that came into it, Mark Furman wasn't up front. Mark Furman wasn't the first. They introduced DNA evidence. They introduced, they got police officers on the stand that did the investigation, that took evidence in that case. How did you bag it? How did you present it? How was it preserved? Did you wear gloves? Did you wear boots? That's where they started their attack first. And then the nail in the coffin was Furman's alleged racial comments. And that just, it sunk everything. It sunk everything. And that was kind of like the cherry on top of the sundae. They built it all the way up. You had your ice cream, you had your whipped cream, you had your nuts, and the cherry on top was bang, Mark Furman. And they knew right there, once he collapsed on the stand and all those allegations came out, that was it. They knew they had it. Michelle's got a $4.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate your donation to the channel. Alice, I think it's Allison. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but she says, I just found your channel and I love your content. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here on LTL Podcast. By the way, if you haven't already, I'm going to drop the link in here. When this when this live stream ends, I would love for you all to go over and check out my my interview with Jennifer Coffendaffer that I had this past Wednesday. I'm going to drop that in the chat. If you want to put that in your queue, I would appreciate the like, click, and the comment over there on that video, because we're trying to get, my goal on that video is at least 10,000 views on that video. So I really would appreciate that. All right, let's keep playing through
Filing is
this.
just the latest attempt from Kohberger's attorneys to outline a potential defense, but with a gag order still in place, we may not know many of the details of a possible alibi or defense strategy until the trial starts in 3 months. Guys.
All right, Gotti, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, good morning to you. Okay, so Kohberger's team is saying maybe he was not actually at the house when the murders were committed. We've been talking about this trial for a long time. Why is this just coming to light now? What's the plan here?
Because the rules require the defense, to file what's called a notice of alibi. In other words, the rules say that, look, generally a defendant doesn't have to say anything. They can just wait for trial. But when it comes to an alibi defense, especially, this started in the 1920s, people started perceiving alibis as like this last minute, pull it out of your pocket.
Yeah, me too. I actually was having some conversation with her today on Twitter through messaging, just asking her some questions. She got back to me right away, which was great. Very nice of her to do that.
Defense. And so out of fairness, the court started saying, well, look, if you're going to say you were somewhere else, you at least have to give the state enough advance notice so they can go out and investigate. If you say you were at your book club meeting, well, then the state should be able to go out and get Ring doorbell tape, talk to the other people at your book club meeting, and generally investigate your claim that you were somewhere else. So this is an exception to the rule, and a controversial exception to the rule, that the defense doesn't need to put on any evidence. And the Supreme Court has said that this is okay with the Fifth Amendment. It doesn't violate the Constitution. This is an exception. You can require a defense to put in this evidence, your notice of alibi. And under the rules in Idaho, this was the time that they had to do it.
And to be clear, so far, the defense has not offered any evidence or any witness that would support this alibi theory. So what could the strategy be here from a defense perspective, Danny?
The way I read between the lines of their filing is this, and this is just my take. They're saying, Judge, we don't have alibi witnesses yet, but we don't want to give up the opportunity to present an alibi defense.
It doesn't look good. We have no alibi witnesses right now, Judge. Well, why not? If you didn't do this, then why don't you have them? And you know, I talked about this with Tanya the other night, and the chat was agreeing with us. What they're trying to do right now, and Taylor's trying to get this indictment dismissed. So it starts over the process again. If it gets dismissed, what's going to happen is that the state is just going to re-indict. If they re-indict, I believe it's going to stop this process all over again, which will mean that Ann Taylor can fight for a preliminary hearing. That's what she wants. And she's pissed that that preliminary hearing got skipped, because when you have a preliminary hearing, what can happen? You can get witnesses on the stands. Who are the two people that she wants to get on that stand right now? Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. And she wants to beat into them and try to find holes in their story so they can say, hey, you know, look, my client wasn't there. You know, I asked her, did you see a 6 foot or 6'3" person with black? Well, she said that it, you know, they could have been 5'8". You know, Your Honor, jury, this clearly cannot be my client. You know, and to see if that, you know, if they're going to crack on the stand. And they may be very fragile. Believe me, it's 2 young ladies that have been through a lot. And they're going to have to be well-prepared witnesses when they get up there, if they get up there to testify, in my opinion.
Because the rules of procedure in Idaho and in many other jurisdictions are you either disclose it or you lose it. If you don't disclose a witness at the time you're supposed to, then you may be precluded from calling that witness at trial. So the defense...
Again, I'm not a legal expert, but it is quite possible they could.
Here appears to be trying to hedge their bets. They're saying, look,
I can find out.
We may call an alibi. We may have an alibi defense, but we don't have it yet. Yeah. So, Judge, don't preclude us. And also, Judge, by the way, the Idaho rules allow an exception for the defendant to testify. That means that even if they don't put on any alibi defense or notify them as they're supposed to, they could, in theory, call the defendant and he could come up with an alibi defense all by himself.
All right, Danny, thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
All right. So JRL just dropped some videos. I'm going to play those really quick. It has to do with Bryan Kohberger. Let's play this one first. Shout out to JRR. You are smashing the algorithm right now, dude. And you're at almost 70,000 subscribers. I have a firm belief that in the next 2 months, JRL is going to be a 100,000 subscriber channel and get that silver button. Good for him, because he has been major boots on the ground lately. And that Carrie Rawson, the videos that he did, the investigating he did, being there in Alabama for the pretty much the whole shenanigans that happen out there, really smashing it. So let's see what he had to say about BK.
Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. I am covering the Bryan Kohberger Moscow, Idaho case. Bryan Kohberger currently behind bars, and his recent filings by his defense, they're trying to get the indictment dismissed and get him released from jail. Highly doubt that is possible. They are using old 1850 case law, kind of like this old jail cell here, right? They're using old law to try to justify that the grand jury was not properly impaneled or the grand jury didn't do a true bill correctly. You think he's going to get out of jail and get that indictment dismissed? Highly doubtful. Yeah.
Someone buy JR a new hat, please. Come on, dude. You need a fresh cap, bro. You can get a fresh cap, bro. I'll send him one.
Actually wants a preliminary hearing in the alternative. Doubt that he'll even get that.
No music tonight.
Bryan Kohberger most likely will be spending the rest of his life behind bars like this, right? And this is an old jail cell back in the 1800s, believe it or not. And criminals would be put inside these cells. And this
hey, Heather, welcome to the channel.
Bryan Kohberger will be subjected to the rest of his life. Just concrete walls. Let me spin the camera around. And he'll just look out, might be in a jail or prison with a catwalk. Now, some people wonder, where will Bryan Kohberger spend his prison time if he gets convicted? And I think he'll get convicted. Well, will he be in the Idaho Department of Corrections, or will Idaho work with another state and do an interstate compact agreement where sometimes other states let the inmate go to another state to serve their time? That's quite a possibility when it comes to the Kohberger case. He's from Pennsylvania. Will they say, hey, we'll ship you to the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections? Definite a possibility. Another thing I'm hearing, if he gets the DP, and you guys know what the DP stands for, he will stay in Idaho and serve his time alone in solitary.
Thank you, Lou. $10 super sticker. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Not get out. Now,
hey, I'm bold as fuck. I don't care.
Arguments whether that is unconstitutional or not. Let me show you a little bit about solitary confinement.
I think Tsunami was
Kohberger,
being
if he's
facetious.
convicted, will most likely spend the rest of his life in solitary
I'm
confinement.
bald as fuck.
That's in
I don't
prison out
care.
of state, Idaho, maybe even Gitmo, maybe even Guantanamo Bay, right? This little prison here reminds me of Guantanamo Bay. Some people say, okay, yeah, ship Kohberger to Gitmo. You know, he's an enemy combatant. He did an act of terrorism in Moscow, Idaho. You can argue that. But here's some information about solitary confinement. So here's an article. Federal Appeals Court upholds ban on unconstitutional conditions on Virginia death row. A federal appeals court has declared that Virginia for many years housed its death row prisoners in unconstitutional conditions and has barred the state from reverting to its prior practices. On May 3rd, 2019, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit ruled that the Commonwealth's former policy of 23 or 24-hour per day.
All right, let's end the poll here. I'm going to put another poll up. So I asked in a while back in the show, have you physically turned off your phone in the past 7 days for any length of time? 64% said no, 35% said yes, and that was 123 votes.
Solitary confinement of death row prisoners constituted cruel and unusual punishment in violation of the Eighth Amendment. So here's one federal court saying that death row solitary confinement is unconstitutional. Here's an article in Wikipedia about solitary confinement in the United States. The United States penal system, upwards of 20% of state and federal prison inmates and 18% of local jail inmates are kept in solitary confinement or another form of restrictive housing at some point during their imprisonment. Solitary confinement, sometimes called protective custody, punitive segregation, or room restriction, generally comes in one of two forms: disciplinary segregation, in which inmates are temporarily placed in solitary confinement as punishment for rule breaking, and administrative segregation, in which prisoners deemed to be a risk to the safety of other inmates, prison staff, or to themselves are placed in solitary confinement for extended periods of time, often months or years. In Bryan Kohberger's case, most likely would be administrative segregation. What do you think? Unconstitutional, or is it legal? What's your opinion on solitary confinement in prison or jail? Now, do you think solitary confinement is unconstitutional or not? And if you think it's unconstitutional, what are you asking for if Bryan Kohberger gets convicted and has to spend the rest of his life in prison? If he doesn't get the DP, should he be able to get out of his cell, out of that room, and mingle amongst the general population? I'm not so sure, right? Maybe another inmate might take a swipe at him, maybe they'll just put him in solitary confinement for his own safety. I don't advocate violence whatsoever, but that's definitely a possibility. So hopefully you got some insight about solitary confinement. This is an old jail cell. And when I just visited here, it reminded me of Bryan Kohberger. Most likely going to be sticking his hands outside one of these bars, asking for porridge, right? The guards feed him 3 meals a day, probably, water and porridge, right?
Porridge.
Through there with this little tin cup. Sometimes they say inmates bang their cups. Ding, 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 ding. This doesn't echo. Covering the Moscow, Idaho case. Subscribe my channel, hit the notification button. Prison sentence. Where will Bryan Kohberger spend his time? We'll talk soon. Stay tuned.
Nice. All right, we got one more, and then we're going to wrap up the show. All right, the black and white Nike sneakers. JLL is investigating. Let's see what he's got to say.
Jonathan Lee Riches
I like how he's being quiet in the store.
investigates. I am covering the Moscow, Idaho Bryan Kohberger case. Let's talk about size 13 Nike shoes. Yes, Nike shoes, size 13, because a pair of Nike size 13s were taken from Bryan Kohberger in a search warrant. Check it out. Now, the question is, were they really Bryan Kohberger's size 13 Nike shoes? Because guess what? Guess what, everyone? Ethan Chapin
I got pictures and videos of Ethan Chapin wearing these type of black and white
Interesting.
Nikes. Check it out.
Oh, interesting. JLR coming through. Look at that. And he's got big feet. Wow. Do you think Kohberger took the shoes?
Wow, right? So,
good
what
stuff.
do you think? Do you think possibly that Bryan Kohberger
13.
took Ethan Chapin's shoes inside his home?
Wow.
Where was Ethan Chapin's shoes? What do you think? So I was just in there looking for a pair of shoes for myself because I need a fresh pair of kicks. And then I saw those Nikes and I'm like, oh my God, I've seen images of Ethan Chapin with black and white Nikes. Now, were they cheap?
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just gonna address this again. I think that John, has some things to address before you come back on LTL. I don't have nothing bad to say about him, but there's just some things that are going on that he needs to square up with T-Rev, or if he's going to come on the channel, he just can't do what he did the other night. And I had to kick him off the panel, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to kick people off my panel, but I cannot have channel drama between other channels. Me and T-Rev are cool. We're cool. We're good. We have talked multiple times. I just don't want to be the person that's in the middle of anything. And, I just don't want to keep continuing to dress this. So I just want to say it tonight. I think that there's some things that need to be worked out. And until those things can be worked out, I'm just going to fly solo for a little while and probably have some other guests on the show. Tanya's been over here. She's been great. So right now, it's just, there can be no drama. We can't have any drama on the channel. That's not what I came here to do, because it does not make these streams and this channel productive. I don't want to be involved in anything like that. In the middle that it's going to start happening, I'm just going to shut it down and end that. So that's my answer. That's going to be my answer for now. All right, let's get through the rest of this and we're going to wrap up the stream.
Chapin shoes that Bryan Kohberger had in his possession, or does Bryan Kohberger wear size 13 shoes? What size shoes does Ethan Chapin wear? Looks like in the videos he has big feet. Definitely looks like those shoes are over 10, size 10 and above. Probably 13s. 13s are very, very rare. The store also here has Vans. Remember the Vans? The Van diamond print? Vans. Look at this. Vans. Look at the shoe. Diamond print on the Vans. There was Van shoe prints inside the home. What do you think? What do you think inside the Moscow home? So I'm just wondering, we were talking about before that, that Bryan Kohberger had IDs in his possession. A lot of people speculated it was the victim's IDs. Probably wasn't true. But I'm wondering if he did take a trophy. Now, why would he have Ethan Chapin's shoes if they were his, the size 13 that was taken by Kohberger? Why would he take Chapin's shoes if they're Chapin's? Or why would he take anyone's shoes if they weren't his? Well, maybe the bloody footprints inside the home, and he just saw an opportunity and he was there, and he was just like, I'm going to grab a pair of shoes and put these shoes on and walk out of the house so it doesn't leave a footprint or anything like that. An actual footprint. We keep talking about digital footprints, but a footprint. So a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to the Moscow, Idaho case. Whose shoes were they that were taken by authorities in the search warrant? Were they Kohberger's or were they Ethan Chapin's? Or do you think it's nothing of nothing? Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button. I am covering the Moscow, Idaho case.
Kids in the background are great.
Stay tuned.
All right. JLR investigating, kill it in the algorithm. Dude, good stuff there, bro. Boots on the ground. That's what we like to see. Boots on the ground. Okay, folks, this is going to end tonight's episode of LTL Podcast. Tomorrow night, I'm going to do something a little different on the channel. I was going to do Lisk, but he's not going. His first appearance in court is going to be on Tuesday. So we'll do Lisk on Tuesday night. So we're going to have a little bit of fun tomorrow. I'm going to drop the link there. If you are interested in the UFO investigations and the congressional hearing that we just had about UFOs, I thought I'd give this a shot. I'm gonna play through the congressional hearing, or some of the most important aspects of what they talked about during that hearing, because I dipped in a little bit on it and I haven't gotten to watch it. So maybe we can all watch that together, talk a little bit, something a little bit different. I didn't want to do UFOs and stuff on this channel, but I thought it would be a little fun to just kind of pull away from true crime one night, do something a little different. And I know you all like aliens. So let's do this. So I dropped the link there. If you want to set your reminder, tomorrow night, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll watch through some of that congressional hearing. I heard it was very compelling and it was very interesting. That's why I wanted to check it out. And it's kind of silly. Everybody is talking about it right now. So we'll have some fun with that. We'll watch through that tomorrow. I want to thank all the new subscribers that have come to the channel in the last 48 hours. I mean, I'm at 4143 as of I stand right now. Hang on one second. 8144 right now. So the channel's blowing up. I hope to get to that 10,000 subscriber mark soon. It's been really great seeing all the new subscribers come in. I had some really great interaction on some short form content that I dropped today. Keep watching those videos. I might cut down on the live streaming a couple of nights a week, just so I can do short form content and get that out into the algorithm, because I think that's what my channel needs right now. Obviously, it's working, because one of my Pappa Rodger video that I dropped today has almost 10,000 views on it. It's more than my Coffin Daffer interview. If you haven't watched the Coffin Daffer interview, go over and watch the Coffin Daffer interview. You're missing a great interview. But that's going to end tonight's podcast. Episode 44 is in the bag. I want to thank all my subscribers, all my new members. Ollie gifted 20 memberships this evening. That's fantastic. If you're a new member, you can go on to my homepage, click down below, all the way down, scroll all the way down. There's all my members only content. I owe my members a video. I promise I will do it this week. What else? Listen, I know sometimes I get very direct and I might get a little nasty sometimes, but I'm a human being. And sometimes comments and things get to you. We're all human. We have those emotions inside of us. We try to control them as best as we can as creators. I try to be fair to everybody as best as I can. I don't, if this podcast is not for you, it's okay. We do things different here. I don't follow the same, format as other channels. I'm very interactive. I love to talk. I recognize the chat as much as I can, and I will interact with my chat through the shows. So again, I hope you stick around. I hope you subscribe. We love all new subscribers here. We love the new comments, likes, shares, all that good stuff. Make sure to follow me on all my social media. Check that out. I'm going to go jump over and see my buddies if they're still streaming, and maybe jump over on their stream. I haven't seen them in a while, and say hi to all those guys over there. But good to see everybody. I hope everybody is good. I'll be back here tomorrow night at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come hang out. We're going to do some alien stuff tomorrow. I think it's going to be fun. All right, ladies and germs, I will see you soon. Bye.